Hey folks, it's Grendel here, and today I'm going to walk you through how to take a basic two-dimensional dungeon map and turn it into a detailed 3D map with dynamic lighting using Dungeon Alchemist. This tool is a real game changer for DMs who run games online using virtual tabletops like Fantasy Grounds, Foundry, and Roll20, and you can take any simple 2D map, add elevation, lighting, and a lot more detail and texture in just a few minutes. And whether you're building from scratch or importing a layout that you've already made, I'm going to show you how to bring it to life step by step. So let's get started. First tool we're going to use is the Watabou one-page dungeon generator. So you just on the Watabou site, and you just go to the one-page dungeon, go ahead and click on Run Generator, and then it's going to generate a random dungeon. And that's a pretty good one. It's a little big for what I want to do. Too many rooms. I'm trying to do something small for a one-shot here. So I like that, but the rounded rooms could be problematic in Dungeon Alchemist, which is what I'm going to put this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to get a nice dungeon shape that I can import into Dungeon Alchemist and then decorate it, make it look really cool. That one looks good. 6 rooms, a couple big rooms, looks pretty cool. All right, so what we'll do is we'll just export that as a PNG, and then I can take this and put it right into Dungeon Alchemist. And of course, if you're just doing something, you could just use this. You don't even need to do anything else to it if you're just, you kind of like the low graphic look. I'm going to open Dungeon Alchemist here, and then go ahead and do a new map, and pick the terrain. I want, let's see, I'm looking for parchment, dark parchment background. I'm going to set it to about 20 by 20 tiles. Should be about right. And then what I'll do is I'll take that dungeon we saved from the dungeon generator. I'm going to take the PNG, and I can use that as an overlay for Dungeon Alchemist. So I'll click on the overlay and trace overlay there, and I just import the dungeon from Dungeon Generator, and there we go. And now I've got an outline I can use. So what I'll do is I'll turn on the grid, and I need to resize this a little bit to make sure that it's closer to the grid size. So if the squares are 5 by 5, I basically want to get the squares on the overlay to be about the same size as the squares in Dungeon Alchemist. So I might have to play with this a little bit, speed it up as I kind of resize this here. It's a little touchy. I may not get it exactly, but it's going to be close enough to do what we need to do. That's pretty good. Okay, now I could just go over to the room generator. I think we're going to go with a crypt. Look pretty cool. I'll go with a random. That just means Dungeon Alchemist is going to fill it with random things. And then I just draw these, I select the squares like this with the mouse right over the top of the overlay there. So I just get the 2 rooms, the hallway, and as long as you're connecting it, you can draw this large, you can draw the entire dungeon there before you even generate what's in the rooms. And that's the cool thing about Dungeon Alchemist is once you hit that little check mark up there, it will generate the walls, the floors, items, all sorts of cool stuff. So let's get these connected here. And it's okay that that's outside the grid. Dungeon Alchemist will just add it. It'll enlarge the grid. So we're okay there. It'll enlarge the map to include that portion hanging off the grid. Click it, see the gears go, and then it's going to, boom, there we go. There we have it. Stone crypt. It's got the torches in there. It's got a couple elements in there. It looks like they put some buttresses and things in there. The lighting's pretty cool because the lighting will all export into Fantasy Grounds or Forge or whatever you're using. So do all the walls. So if you're using dynamic lighting, that all comes across. I'm going to look at the overlay again, just so I know where the stairs are, where the doors were, and there's that dais there. So I want something kind of like that, like that idea there with the dais. So I'm going to go ahead and try to find an asset here in the object that looks like that. Let's see. Kind of want a statue, but first I should put the platform down. So look for the different platforms they have here. Scroll through. There's a nice stone one. It's rounded. It's not exactly the half circle shape we want, but it's probably the closest thing that I can find that will work. So I'm going to turn off the dungeon collisions, so that way I can actually manipulate it a little better, get it closer to the wall, resize it so it's pretty close. I mean, I think that'll work for what we need, that stone dais there. Look at the overlay again. Looks like we've got some pillars in that first room with the staircase. So we'll go ahead and we're going to add some columns. And they've got a lot of nice assets on Dungeon Alchemist. I mean, it doesn't have everything, but it does have enough that you can really get pretty creative. I like these broken columns, because we're going to say this is sort of a subterranean crypt that's, I don't know, centuries old. It's probably something the players will stumble upon during one of their travel adventures, or we'll put this into a one-shot. And then get the stairs. It's a double stairs. I can resize it, though. And then, even though we're not exactly lined up with the overlay, we still have all the shapes correctly. And so when you turn off the overlay, you can see, yeah, looks really good. Looks like Dungeon Alchemist threw in all these buttresses on the interior walls, which actually I kind of like because it is a subterranean crypt. So kind of would make sense, I suppose, to have some of these buttresses in here. I want to put on some archways or some kind of divider between the rooms. Door would be good. This Gothic door. I like that. One thing you need to do, though, you can't just throw the door on there. You'd have a wall. You'd have a solid wall to be able to install the door. So I'm going to have to go through and pick out some walls and close up those entrances and openings to the different chambers in the crypt here. It's pretty cool. You can see the torches kind of blazing away. Okay, a whole bunch of different kinds of wall. I'm trying to match what's already there. And then I'll just close off these openings with the walls so I can place my doors. Boom, 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 boom. Now the doors are in place. And the walls were a little different, so I'm going to retexture the dungeon. It's pretty neat. You can just select another wall texture and then just do the entire dungeon at once. I mean, it's your entire map with that texture. This dais is a bit high, so I'll turn off collisions and lower it right into the ground there with that little raise lower tool. And sticking out through the wall a little bit, but nobody's going to see that, especially not if we're doing a using virtual tabletop with lighting enabled. Now on the dais, I want to put maybe a statue. Maybe this is like the final room where with the patriarch or matriarch or somebody, an important hero for this family crypt, was buried. So we'll get something cool there. And then instead of a regular coffin, we'll do a really neat sarcophagus with maybe the hero inscribed on the lid there. And then you can see the 3D view. Looks pretty cool. We zoom in a little bit, and now we just have to kind of go through. And what I like to do is get one of the tokens of like we'll get this little skeleton guy here, and then we can click on the eyeball and get a first person view of our 3D dungeon now. So we've taken that 2D dungeon from the dungeon generator. Now we've got a 3D dungeon just like that already, just in, 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. So I'll you can use the little skeleton guy, the little token, to walk through and actually go through your dungeon. And I like to do this so I can check out, see things that I might have missed, like that wall there needs a door. So we'll throw the door on there. And then click back on him again. Keep walking through and just make sure everything looks okay. Yeah, those buttresses don't look so good from the first person view, so just really blocks off the corridor there. So we'll just go ahead and delete those. And then click back on our little skelly guy and open the door. And this is what you'll see if you put it into the forge. I mean, you can move around in this, and there we go. That's another buttress blocking the door. Fix that. But whatever your setup is, if you're doing any kind of virtual gaming, you can even, like on Discord or something, you could stream this to your players, and they can get this sort of first-person view. Those columns look really cool, first-person, cracked. They've got some really neat bas-relief on there. Let's get this big kind of cage in the middle. It doesn't really make sense for a crypt. It's not that kind of crypt. That's maybe we'll put something like a brazier in there, because maybe when people used to come down to this family crypt, and they would light the brazier, and then maybe perform a ritual or some sort of sacred sort of sacrifice to their ancestors. You could turn off the brazier. That's pretty cool about the lighting in here. These columns are looking kind of janky. They're not really lined up. I had the collisions turned off, so I don't think we need that many. So I'm going to go ahead and just go down to 4 columns, get them lined up a little better here. And the nice thing is it will snap all these assets to the map with the collisions turned on. But sometimes you need to turn off the collisions so you can fine-tune where everything is. This stairway looks a little strange. I don't like the wall in the back there, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the wall. You can use that little tool to delete just sections of the wall, but it's not that precise. So sometimes you'll end up deleting more walls than you want to. So it's no big deal. You just add another wall back in there. But now our stairs are gone, so go back to stairs. Let's try a single staircase. Maybe that'll fit a little better. That's pretty good. I'll shrink that down and sort of re-center it a little bit. And then just keep going back to the skeleton, checking. We've got that side coming out, so we'll reposition it. That looks pretty good. And then, yeah, he climbs up there. You can see across the dungeon there. So then I'm going to run him through once again, get a basic idea of how everything looks. First person looks pretty good. Shut the doors here. Turn off these torches. Doesn't make sense that the torches would be lit if this place has been abandoned for a couple centuries. The torches would be there, but they'd be burned out, or the sconces would be empty. More of these buttresses. There's just too many, so I'm probably going to go ahead and remove some of those, especially the ones that are blocking the corridor. It doesn't look too good. So get rid of that. And of course I deleted my skeleton guy, so I'll have to put him back. Just undo it. Get him back on there. All right, then we go around to the last chamber here. Boom, the big chamber with the sarcophagus, the big hero. I'll move those buttresses over a little bit. It's kind of a cramped chamber, but I mean, maybe they weren't a super wealthy family. You know, they just sort of had enough to create this. There's a door here, which doesn't go anywhere. And I don't plan for it to go anywhere, so I'll have to get back to that later. But yeah, that's about right. I mean, again, this is for a one-shot. It's something the players could find while they're adventuring in the wilderness, maybe like a side quest of some kind. So it doesn't need to be, super elaborate, super big. I want to put like a chest or something in a little alcove. But, oh, yeah, I could use this over here. That's cool. Like a little relic on a stand, like a pedestal in that room. Okay. And then, of course, we're going to need some coffins in each one of these chambers here. Different family members, ancestors who have passed on. And they're not all going to be intact. Some of them will be intact. Some of these will be opened. Maybe grave robbers or ghouls come through and kind of crack these open. And then sort of that main chamber there. And then maybe the more higher status family members have those individual rooms. I'm going to do a little decoration here with put some scattered bones around there. We've got some open coffins. I can use this paint objects to place a bunch of different things at the same time. You can set the parameter there for how dense you want them to be. Drop down. So I can just drop them down on like a whole pile of bones, randomly scattered. If you don't like it, just undo it. Control Z, click it again until you get what you want. That looks pretty good. Go back to the 3D view. I'm going to move that metal door to the big hero chamber there. Maybe that metal door is so formidable that nobody's been able to get in there. So that's why that sarcophagus is still intact. And then I'm going to put, I like this kind of solid metal chest there. Throw a couple torches there. Maybe because, again, this is the hero chamber or the heroic ancestor. These torches, maybe these are actually have like a magical effect where they just they aren't ever extinguished. Continual flame type spell. And I just have to make sure they're stuck on the wall there. And then we'll fill out the rest of these chambers with some more stone coffins. So these were a little more accessible. So maybe some ghouls or nasty critters got into a couple of these, scattered the bones. I'm going to put a statue here, a broken head, kind of show the age there. Turn off these other torches. We're just going to have those two with the continual flame and the end chamber there. And then you can just, it's great, you can just click on the asset if you like it, hold down shift, and then just keep pasting multiple versions of it. I'm going to move some of these bones around a little bit. You can individually move them instead of using the large tool. Got a couple more sconces in there. Got the collisions turned on so that way they snap to the wall a little better. You don't have to worry about them sort of hanging out in midair. Put a broken statue here. Just add a little ambiance there, and that's looking pretty good. I like that. Let's throw some spider webs in there. Again, we'll use the brush. So it kind of randomly places them, based on how you set your brush. So you might have to click on the individual web and move it again. Because as you can see, it just sort of shoots ropes all over the place there. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'll get back to our little skeleton guy and see if we noticed anything weird about our decorations here. It looks pretty good. Yeah, the spider webs look pretty good. It could be like spiders or something hanging in there. Maybe in this first chamber, there's an encounter with some cave spider of some kind. It's made a lair in here. You can see the broken statue, burned out brazier, a couple of unopened coffins. Open these doors. And again, something's got into that one. who knows how long ago that was. Could be recent. This hallway is kind of empty. Maybe if something got into the coffin, there's a lot of bones in here. Yeah, so something's gone through and eaten the remains of these poor people. So let's kind of make a trail of bones, maybe from one opened coffin to the next, just sort of indicating that whatever was going through here, ransacking these coffins, was having a snack as they were going through. Got a little skelly guy. And walk through. Yeah, now we got a nice little trail of bones. Got a lot of skulls, probably too many skulls based on how many open coffins we have. So we can fix that. Just, clean that up a little bit. Delete the extra. Move this over here. All right, the cobwebs over there. And then go through again. I like that. I like how the bones are in those cobwebs. And that's a pretty good job just placing them with the brush. You don't really have to adjust a whole lot. I mean, you can get as picky as you want, obviously. That buttress is kind of in the way. And these bones, you got to jump over it, I guess. Okay. And open the door here. And yeah, that sarcophagus is sticking out a little bit. The coffin's sticking out a little bit too much. So we'll just move that. That's why I like to do the first person view. Pick up on things you're not going to notice in the orthographic view or the isometric views there. And then, okay. It's looking pretty good. Pretty good. And so, maybe whatever ransacked this place, maybe they're still here. Maybe it's still creeping around down here, but it wasn't able to get past that big metal door. Just too sturdy. Or maybe it's enchanted, trapped. Open it, look inside. That looks cool. It's cramped, but I think that's big enough. And then you've got this really great, sturdy looking chest, metal bound. Maybe it's got some cool relic or family heirloom. Final kind of treasure piece that players can find when they make it all the way down here. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. We'll zoom out a little bit. And then just do a little bit of cleanup, shut some of these doors. I would like to leave them ajar, but you really don't have that option. You can flip the door around so it swings the other way, but can't really have it half open. So it's either open or shut. All right, and then we zoom out, and there we go. That was from our. It's looking pretty good. We've turned it into a 3D dungeon that you can load into any kind of virtual tabletop. Like I said, Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, The Forge. It takes, it's already got all of the walls and doors set up for you for any kind of, when you turn on the dynamic lighting in these games. So you don't even have to do that. It's fantastic. Saves you a ton of time if you use those tools. Like we use a lot of Fantasy Grounds, so I don't have to sit here and draw walls and doors with all the on top of the map like I normally would have to. It just imports it all over. It's going to throw a little treasure in here. Maybe there's a little axe or something in the corner there. A couple treasure pieces, and then there we go. So now we've got it. And that's pretty good. I mean, we just did this in about, well, maybe I sped up some parts, maybe about a half an hour to do this, but, we kind of went into detail with the decoration. And then we just have to export it. Super simple. Just go ahead and export the map and then you just sort of choose from your options here. And then, like I said, the formats, Fantasy Ground, Foundry, Roll20. They have some other kind of VTTs that they support. And then you choose the one you want, choose the quality you want. You can export it with the grid, or I like to turn off the grid just because sometimes it's hard to line up the grid in Fantasy Grounds with an existing grid. So if it's not exactly on, it looks goofy. So you can change the colors of the grid if that's what you want to do. And then, but I like to turn it off before I export it. And yeah, and you could use this, you could print this out, use it at your table. You could use it on, if you play over Discord or something like that. If you don't use a VTT, you could use this. But you really don't need to go to all this detail if you're going to do that. Okay, and then we just save it. Boom, saves the files, saves over all the lighting, everything. And then that's it. And you've got your dungeon ready to go. Send your players down there and have them face whatever kind of nasty critters you put in there.